Anna, the Yarn Randomizer, and this is the Yarn Randomizer, a knitting podcast. This is episode 52, and it is the 28th of June, and I think I have a small dog wanting attention here. It's okay, Odo. We're just recording a podcast here. Okay, and so let's see, any information was it links and everything else, like where I'm on Instagram and Ravelry? I'm the Yarn Randomizer in both those places, and also my Gmail address is the Yarn Randomizer, so any information like that you'll find linked below, as well as any information about projects that I talk about here. Okay, Odo, wait, give me a sec. I'm going to pull my shade a little more. And let's see, so before we get into it, oh yes, why randomizer is because I like to pull my yarns randomly from my stash using these numbers that go to numbers on a spreadsheet. And let's see, also finally, the please like and subscribe, the usual plea, YouTuber plea, to help us get more exposure and that kind of thing. And so I want to talk right up front about something you may or may not notice. So I had a doctor's appointment with a dermatologist a few days ago, and I had to have treatment for a precancerous area on my skin here and also in a spot on my back. And so this is relatively noticeable right now. It was treated with liquid nitrogen. So if you notice that, that's what's going on. All I can say is make sure you have your annual checkups and that kind of stuff. Avoid sun when you can. You know, when I was a kid, we didn't avoid sun as much, and it's always worth getting things checked up on. So I'd rather have it caught this way than later on. So that's your PSA for this episode, is always make sure to go ask about stuff you find unusual or anything like that and get it checked out and stuff. It's always worth it getting it checked out ahead of time. All right, so first things up front is the winner. Oh, and I didn't grab the yarn, but it was my leftover Christmas confections yarn. I'll put in a picture of the yarn here. It's a little over one skein of it, and that is going to Helen Moffat, M-O-F-F-A-T. It's at Helen, H-E-L-E-N, M-O-F-F-A-T 2353. So if that's you, please get in touch with me through Gmail, and we'll figure out how to get that to you. So that's the giveaway right up front, so you don't have to wait. But at the end, we're going to have another yarn giveaway, and so if you want to learn about that, hang around until stash management section. So, all right, so what sweater? What am I wearing? Well, I'm just wearing a t-shirt because over the past week or so, we've had this big heat wave going on here. I actually have my air conditioner off right now, which I finally put it in the window just to be able to talk on this podcast. Our house does not have central air because it has a hot water heating system here, not ducting and everything. So I have an air conditioner here in my office when it gets hot enough in the summer. Same thing with our bedroom, a window air conditioner, but that's all we got. And right now this one's off, so I'm hoping it stays cool enough for a while in here to finish this up. So too hot for sweaters, but I do have a finished object. And it is the Volkish cowl by Martina Bame. Let's see if I can hold that up there nicely. And I used all the leftover colors I had from it was the Jimmy Bean's Wool Shawl Club for did I write down? It's like, I think it was like 2022 or something like that. And so there are 12 different colors of Malabrigo sock, and I used some black that I had in stash to add some length to it. And you can see how, because of the way the stitches are done, you get these sections with this kind of gathering there. It looks really neat. And so I'm actually gonna take a chance on messing up my hair. I still have to weave in some ends from this, but I kind of want you to see how it looks when you're wearing it. And so let's get this going. Okay. So I think she kind of folds it in a little bit. Get rid of all these strings, ends. But yeah, so it kind of like fills out those little ruffles and everything, and it really is very, well, the Malabrigo sock is extremely soft. It's 100% merino. Now, why they call it sock, I have no idea, if there's no nylon in it and everything. But yeah, so this turned out really neat. And it's very cozy. And I think I could have even made it a little bit longer. Let's see. Fold that up a little bit there. Yeah. So it's a really neat shawl. It just kind of has these gathered sections. And Wolkisch means cloudy. It's the name of the shawl in German, and I can see why and everything. But yeah, I think the multiple colors worked out really well on this. It's not a design that was written for multiple colors in mind, but I think it worked well. And I just, oh, you know what? I totally forgot my microphone and everything. I think I'm going to go without it this time. I don't want to start and restart, so I think we'll be okay. Now, so what I basically did was as soon as I started with the yarn, I used it until it ran out and just started with the next one. So I used up every bit of the scraps of this yarn. And what's really great about this pattern, it is a 1-row repeat, and it is as simple as can be. So it ended up being my travel knitting everywhere I went. And so I ended up completing this in a short, well, not completely short period of time, but I knitted on this a lot in comparison to other things when I was out and about. So highly recommend the pattern. It's a free pattern, and so it's great. I think it looks really great in gradient skeins as well, as solid color skeins, and nice kind of scrappy project there. So that's my one. So that's a finished object, a full object. But one of the things I forgot to talk about last time was when I'd finished my ornament, I had taken the rest of the trip to Italy yarn and I had put it into my 10-stitch blanket. So it's probably been a while since I've shown this. And so this is my 10-stitch blanket, and I added what I had left of the trip to Italy to it just to finish that little remnant off. And so this is a pattern by Frankie Brown, and I am using a variation done by, there's a project and it's linked in my project notes. Was it Elican's Myrtilio blanket? But she has a way of connecting the sections that I prefer, and so I'm using her method on that. So yeah, and so I have documented in the project for this every bit of what yarn I've used in here. So if you're curious about one of these yarns, you can find them all there. And so yeah, so that I decided to use up what was left there. And I'm going to try to do that more often. If I have a little bit of fingering left, I'm going to come back to this blanket and do it. The blanket is actually meant to be DK, but I decided to do it as a fingering weight. I kind of wish I'd done it as DK now, but this is okay. This will be a nice light kind of throw once it's done, and I'll figure out how big to make it when I get that far, but it's growing slowly. I just put it in hibernation when it's not being worked on. So yeah, so that's my 10-stitch blanket. They used up the rest of the Mandy's Makings trip to Italy right there. And so that goes back into hibernation. All right, so now on to the usual suspects. So I have made some good progress on my year-long blanket. Let's bring this up here. I have finally finished the dip stitch sections. Let's see, I want to make sure I don't slip this off the needles. All right. There we go. So the dip stitch sections are done, and I'm starting a slip stitch. You can see the slip stitch section there, And that's where we're at. And it's almost, I think in one more row, I'll be at 50% complete for the project. And so I've been keeping it up to date. I fell a little behind while I was at the retreat because I got involved in another project you'll see later, but this is working out so nice. And this is made with Finish Knits, yarn I get from Finish Knits called Lancava Mayaneo DK. So it's a 25% wool, 75% wool, 25% a nylon DK that made getting 16 skeins of yarn for a blanket affordable. All right, now make sure this stays together. So that's the progress on the big blanket. Now the other stuff. I'm only going to bring up stuff I made progress on. So there are a couple of things on my needles I didn't make progress on these past 2 weeks. Partly with the retreat, and it's also been very hot, and I've had other things calling my attention, but I did make progress. So let's hit those. Now, on Andrea Gaughan's Willow Pullover, let's bring that out. I got some knitting progress on this while I was at the retreat. And so, got a little further on the body. And so this is working up. This yarn is so incredibly soft. It's Knit Picks Capra, their DK, and it is just totally squishable. I worry a little bit about it being pilly, but we'll see how that goes. But really enjoying knitting this. I've really got the flow of the pattern now, and I don't really have to refer back to the charts anymore. I just have to get to the length up to the underarm right now so that I can start the other sections of the sweater. So yeah, really happy with that. So yeah, a little progress there. And then, let's see what's next. Okay. Next is my Terrazzo neck by Petite Knits. So I'm trying to think. Yeah, just looking at what I got hanging up there. All right. So I'm almost to the point where I'm going to split for the back. And I still feel like these two yarns are just playing together fantastically. I've got this here because I'm trying to track when I get another 2 inches from there done, because that's the point at which I'll split for the neck. Go. And I still feel like these two colors are just working fantastically together. And I like how I don't feel like it's doing anything unusual pooling wise. Yeah. And it feels great. And so I think this will end up going a little faster once I end up doing the 2 shoulders. And then you just bring in the collar and just knit down the front, but the front has decreases on it, so those rows will get shorter as I go forward. And so yeah, and I'm knitting this with a skein of the Fiber Seeds Sprout Worsted, and it was I think a Hanukkah box colorway that I'm using. She had some leftovers on sale as far as whole skeins, and I picked up one of those. And then the other skein is from Superfine Yarn Co. Their Shoreway Silk, I think in Moon Dust, but they don't dye yarn anymore. So yeah, this is, I still have some whole skeins from them in some sock yarn, I believe, but yeah, I kind of miss them having product out there. So yeah, so that's the status of this project. Now, next. Oh yes, oh, where did I put that? Did I put that back here? Yep. This is a bag my husband got me. I was somewhere off of Amazon for Christmas. It's just cute. And so I've got my honeybee vest in here, and this is my 14th randomizer pick for the year, and it was with the Shetlandia yarn. So what I'm doing, this is the upper back. And I really like how this is turning out. excuse me, I got nose from Mohair Itch. Let's see. So there, I'm using the leftover that was picked was this Shetlandia Sport here, but I'm using all the leftovers from the Mystery Wool Along from 2023 for Bare Naked Wools, which I'd used to make a shawl, the Haplander, that from, I think it was the May when that started. So this is East Frisian, this gray here. This is Wensleydale, this darker gray. And then there's the Shetlandia. These are all sport weight, and then Oxford Sport here. So basically I'm just kind of striping in the different colors as I go along. And this is the upper back of the vest. So I'm getting ready to make the increases for the armholes. And then we'll go down on the body. But yeah, I'm really happy with how this is coming together. And I think I did a very extensive spreadsheet. I will link it in my project so you can take a look at it, that estimates, shows how much of each yarn is needed, you know, what proportion they make of this vest. And I'm trying to track to see if I have enough to complete the whole vest. If necessary, I've got some other yarns I can bring in, but I'd like to see if I can just complete it using all these leftovers. And then this dark color is a British Jacob sport weight from Bare Naked Wools as well. This is going to be a Bare Naked Wools yarn episode here. But yeah, super happy with how that's coming out. All right. Let's put that there. And that pattern is the Honeybee Vest by, and a name I cannot pronounce, Johanna Maline Tosh. I apologize if I'm missaying that, but yeah, really enjoying it. Simple mosaic stitch pattern that I'm using, and I think it really does a good job highlighting those yarns. And now, finally, I have the project I started. It was part of the Bare Naked Wools retreat. I'll talk a little bit about that later. And they had another Hap Shawl. And if you don't know what a Hap Shawl is, I think there's a good information video. I'll see if I can find it and link it. But it's a traditional type of shawl, and I'm not going to take a guess at the area. I want to say Scotland, but ooh, that may not be correct. But she had a new Hap, so it's her Mystery Wool Along 2025 Hap from Ann Hansen at the Bare Naked Wools retreat. And here is the progress so far. And so you can see I've got the first lace section done. I'm working on this lace section now. And it's really, you know, doing this project was a reminder of how much fun it is to knit lace. I really love knitting lace patterns, and I'll show you the yarns really quick. So two of them are in here. Actually, there's three of them in here now. The first one is this is a Jacob fingering here. And then this slightly different gray here is some Stone Soup fingering from there. And then finally this cream color is Shropshire fingering. That's a type breed of sheep. She often has some that are just pure one breed of sheep kind of yarn. And again, it's just been so fun to do. And so, let's see, there are one other color that hasn't been used in it yet, and that is the Borderale fingering. And all the yarns came in these little 2-ounce cakes ready to use for us at the retreat. And so yeah, so I got a big start on that. I can tell it's getting hot in here just from the color of my face. All right, so those are all the things I've been working on, and let's double check. Yes. As far as weaving in ends, I've been a bum again the past 2 weeks, but the travel and everything, kind of these big events and kind of stuff, I don't know about other folks. They talk about the difference between introverts and extroverts being that extroverts get a lot of energy from going to group gatherings, where introverts get wiped out. And I get a little wiped out after going to a group event. I love the event and interacting with everybody, but it does kind of wipe me out a little bit. So I need to commit to getting my cowl ends woven in for next time. So I want to have that done, and I'll post the picture of all the snipped ends at some point on Instagram. All right, so finally, the next yarn randomizer pick. So the next yarn randomizer pick is this Maline Tosh Vintage, and look at that red. That is Blood Runs Cold is the name of this color. Now I picked this on sale. I think it's called Watson, the little sale app that they used to do. I think they only do it occasionally now, but they used to do it all the time. And I had picked this up on sale off of Watson, and it was more than this yarn. So it was this one skein of their worsted, but it also came with a Pom Pom. And this is kind of like a cream color with black tips on it. And it's a pretty big Pom Pom. So it came with that, and it came with a free pattern, which I'll stick in a picture of, called Jimmy's Little Helper. So, you know, I thought about it, about what I wanted to do with this. I actually did a recording of going through the ideas of what to do with this, and I've got some continued learning to do. I've got the recording, and I've got to figure out how to bookend that recording with some images that I want to kind of lead into it and finish. It's like I forgot everything about recording stuff off the computer and completely had to relearn it. But this time, although I don't have a microphone here, I had a microphone there for better audio. So I'm going to actually publish the picking out the pattern choice for this as soon as I can, and we'll see how that goes out. But I've got still some more learning to do there, but I'm going to get there soon. But so it came with this Pom Pom, and although I looked at like the possibility of making another pair of Van Dyke socks, which are worsted weight socks that I really like, and I looked at a bunch of patterns, and there's lots of possibilities and everything, I just really like the idea of making kind of a Santa hat out of this. I like that Jimmy's Little Helper, but I can't say that I'm a big fan of this Pom Pom and stuff. So we'll talk about, actually, you know what? We're going to talk about this more later. I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to show you two other Pom Poms. So this is a Pom Pom, and this is made of alpaca. You would not believe how soft and floofy this Pom Pom is, but I'm thinking that it might be a better choice for the end of a Santa hat. So I have this one, but I have another one also that's a slightly smaller white Pom Pom, and so I need your help. So I'm going to make the Santa hat, the Jimmy's Little Helper hat, but which Pom Pom do you think would be a better choice? You can see the little attachment point for that one there. And this one has strings to tie it on with. So in the comments, let me know, what do you think? The little Pom Pom or the alpaca Pom Pom? All right. So that's it for the yarn randomizer pick, 15th pick for the year. And now, let's see. We're going to do acquisitions, and then we'll get to stash management. And I have a larger giveaway than usual this time, so stay tuned. All right, so stash acquisitions. So I'm at Bare Naked Wools. They have a little pop-up shop there, and I'm picking up yarn there and getting tempted by things daily. So it was very challenging. And so I did pick up some yarn. So I picked up some Kent lace. I don't know what it is with me and lace yarn, but I do like lace yarn. And so I picked up this colorway. This is White Sand. And so there are some shawls that Ann Hansen has that I think this would look amazing in. So I picked it up for that purpose. And next I picked up, that went rolling off the table. I picked up 3 skeins of, this is Fin Dandy 3-ply And so this is a sport weight yarn, and I've got a couple of sweaters in mind. Maybe I'll put in pictures of those. Let me take a look here really quick at my stash. And so there were two patterns from, I'm drawing a blank here. Oh, from Thea Coleman. So I'll put in one picture after the other. Jinjiha is one possible pattern for this, and the Vanilla Affogato is another one. And so I'm thinking that this would be really nice in one of those. I picked up 3 skeins of this, and so with the specific idea in mind of making sort of a t-shirt weight sweater and stuff. So there's that Fin Dandy 3-ply. And finally, I picked up Bare Naked Wool's Kent DK, and I recently got a pattern from, there it is, pattern from Bare Naked Wool. So I picked up this. I really love this warmer, not so dark brown color. And the idea, I picked up 4 of these, and the pattern I have in mind is called Herring Weave by Ann Hansen. I'll put in a picture. And so these are ones I actually bought. I had the patterns in mind, which is unusual for me, before I bought the yarn for any of these projects. So I put notes in my stash about that. Now, fair warning, I might change my mind once this gets picked at some point with the randomizer, but we'll see when we get there. One of the funny things about these skeins is I think these are 3 different labels for her wool. There's this Bare Naked Wools with the kind of olive there, and then Bare Naked Wools with the little, I think, skein rolling across it, and, oh, it got away from me, one with the sheep on it. There we go. One with the sheep on there. But yeah, it was lovely seeing the neatest thing. If you can go to her shop, and I'll put the information below about where her shop is, but it's up there in Northern Ohio in the don't know if it's in the Cleveland area or in the Cuyahoga Falls area, but she has so many samples made of her wools, and you can take a look at them, you can try them on, and you really gives you a great idea of how the yarn is going to work up. So I can't recommend her enough. And of course, she's an Ohio yarn maker, and a pattern designer, so I gotta support the home state a little bit there, but she does incredible work. All right, so now we're down to stash management. So I had a great time at the Bare Naked Wool's retreat, and did damage to my stash plans and stuff by buying more yarn. I wanted to talk about how great the hanging out with a bunch of incredible knitters, and Ann Hansen and all the folks there. She helped every person at the retreat kind of get their measurements and see what kind of adjustments they might have to make to a pattern to make it fit their measurements, and everything worked individually with everybody who was there. It was amazing. And the food was amazing, the lodging was amazing, and my friend Karen that I run into at retreats actually brought me a little birthday card. Thank you, Karen. It was so nice. And so yeah, it was kind of the birthday treat to myself to go to that retreat. Now, let's see. So I highly recommend it. They're planning on making another one soon, and if I hear any information about that, I will share that. Now, I haven't got the exact numbers on the stash damage. I didn't have the heart to cook it up just yet, but we'll see. But I decided I would give away a sweater quantity of DK yarn. And I'm going to bring that up here. And so this is Dye Mad yarn. This is another Ohio dyer. And this color is called Hopkinsville Goblin. And so it's got some areas with speckles and with some white, but it's this great crazy green and stuff, very bright. And so, if you are interested in this is, I think, a total of, these are 246 yards each. So it's almost 1,000 yards of yarn. And so if you are interested in this, I would like you to mention goblins. I guess that goes along with, I think I'll talk about what I've been listening to recently, but just mention goblins. And remember, don't say anything about a giveaway. We don't want the scammers to show up, but this is your shot at getting some really beautiful dye-mad yarn in a crazy colorway, but I think you'll enjoy it. So mention goblins in your comments. All right. So as far as income for the channel, I'm still waiting for my Crash Course coin to show up because I definitely want to show that to you when it gets here. And I was looking at how much has come in, and we're almost at $300 total. Ooh, big numbers. And so what'll happen next is the next $100, when I get up to 400, I want to do again what I did last, I think, November. And that is, we'll do a $100 gift certificate to your local yarn shop for somebody randomly picked from the video comments for that video. So the faster it accumulates, the faster we'll get there, but we'll get there slowly but surely. It'd be great if we could do this like a couple of times a year and stuff. It'll all depend on how many people watch and that kind of stuff, but I think the bottom line, I love supporting the local yarn shops doing this and giving back some of what people are giving of their time watching the podcast. So let's see. Oh, favorite video. So time for one of my favorite videos, and that would be one from the Bearded Purl podcast. Now, I don't know if any of you were watchers of that knitting podcast, but he did a autumn garden tour in 2020, and it was, to me, really inspiring. I loved seeing how they had their vegetable gardening was integrated into the landscape, which I had never seen anything like that before. And so it really gave me lots of ideas, and I just love it, the idea of just growing it as part of your landscaping and not having a separate kind of patch as a garden setup. So I will share that link and everything, and you can take a look at their channel. There's a lot of interesting videos there. They haven't been recording videos for a while. They relocated maybe to Norway or to somewhere else outside the United States. But they still have a lot of worthwhile content to watch. So yeah, so really cool way to do vegetable gardening at home, and potentially with limited space as well. I have no excuses. I have tons of space, but I don't have a big garden. I have some cucumbers growing out with my flowers right now. All right. So what I'm watching and stuff, so I'm up through the 8th episode of Murderbot. And so it's got 2 episodes to go, so I'll have finished it by the next time we watch. But I'm really enjoying that show. So I'm a big science fiction nerd, and it's been great. I love some of the ideas at play in that series, and it's just, there are such funny moments in there. The next series I'm probably going to watch is going to be Andor Season 2. Season 1 was amazing, if you haven't watched that yet, and I personally feel like it's probably the best Star Wars related series that's out there. So I'm looking forward to watching that next. Let's see, and I'm halfway through my listening to the Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring, and it's interesting listening to it. I haven't read it since high school. Of course, I've seen the movies multiple times. But it's really amazing the amount of detail that Tolkien puts into that, and it's almost a little overwhelming. You're listening to this, and you almost feel like you need some kind of scorecard, like the characters talk about these historic events and figures and everything, which would be in context, understood by the other characters, but for you, it's like the first time you're hearing it. And I feel sometimes like I need a map, and I need a relationship chart and that kind of stuff to kind of understand everything that's going on and who they're talking about. But it's really a fascinating listen, and Andy Serkis is doing an amazing job doing the reading of this unabridged version of the book. And so it's really just a joy to listen to. I've been really enjoying it. Anytime I'm doing chores, driving in the car, or that kind of stuff, I am listening to the Lord of the Rings right now. So yeah, and so that's what I'm watching and listening to right now. I'm actually looking for a good nonfiction book. The last nonfiction I did was Behave by Dr. Robert Sapolsky, which I cannot recommend enough. Really amazing book about studies, like the latest information and studies in human behavior. Is really interesting. I personally find that type of information just fascinating. And he's got a new one out that makes an argument against free will, which I'm kind of hesitant to read. I don't know, it's probably a good read, but at the same time, it's kind of like the idea that there wouldn't be free will would be kind of a little depressing to me. Which reminds me of one of my favorite science fiction stories. So real quick, Ted Chiang has collections of short stories, and so Exhalations is one of those short story collections, which I really recommend. There's some great stories in there. But he had one that was just a 2 or 3 page story about, and the story itself was a warning letter about a toy that this company had invented that kind of proved that there was no free will. And so some people who got that realization just went into catatonia and stopped interacting with the world. So he writes this warning letter. He says, but if if there is no free will, and what happens will happen, no matter what, even with the warning letter, you might ask why I'm doing this, and it's because it's what we're expected to do. And so it's a really kind of interesting idea on the playing around with the idea of free will. This might be getting a little too existential for the podcast, but I like those kinds of science fiction stories. I love science fiction and fantasy stories as well, but more really science fiction, because they help illuminate, they set up stories that really help illuminate the human condition, what it means to be human. So that's why I like those so much. Actually, favorite movie, science fiction movie ever is Arrival, the one with, I think it's Amy Adams. Let's see, who are Amy Adams, yes. And so if you want to see a fantastic science fiction movie, that's it right there. Okay, enough waxing philosophical about science fiction and stuff. So I have at least now 3 recordings in the tank for other types of videos that I've got to start getting out there in between my regular podcast videos, and I'll work on it. Cross my heart, I'll work on it these next 2 weeks, and so at least one of those videos will come out before 2 weeks from now. So that's my solemn vow. So I hope you're enjoying the weather where you're at. We've had a break in the weather. It's in the 80s today, down from the mid 90s, and I hope you're enjoying the cooler weather in the southern hemisphere. Wish I had a little bit of that. Oh, we have our one noisy vehicle for the episode. There it goes. And I hope you're taking care of yourself. I highly recommend getting an annual checkup and having things checked out when you need to. It makes a difference. And so also, I hope you're experiencing kindness and giving kindness in return. And most of all, I hope you are enjoying your knits.